So how's everybody doing today? Welcome to so tonight is a regular meeting. And I'd like to go over the agenda really quick before I open the public comments. We have just a little bit over 2 hours. We have 2 public comment periods. We have 7 agenda items and 3 that we definitely have to get through. So what I'd like to do is propose that we move item number 5, the rate study, to the last. If we have time, we can discuss anything related to that. If we don't, then this will be the major item that we'll be doing at the workshop December 16th. Does anybody have any problems with that? And then I guess the easiest thing to do is just our 2 reports that we'll be voting on tonight. We'll see if, I think we might, we'll be bringing them up really quick to see if we need any minor tweaks. And we'll be doing that on 6. So we'll do both. I know it's, one of the reports was associated with 4 and 6, so maybe we'll just go to 6 and do that on 6. So we'll be doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7, and then 6, the old 5 will become new 7. So then if you'll pop up the screen, the number, then we'll go ahead and open up for public comments. Again, remembering that the first time is just related to the agenda items, and we have to make sure everything is definitely limited to 5 minutes tonight.
Hello?
Yeah, you're on.
Okay, very good. I do have public comment. Good afternoon, committee members. Fred Volz for the record. When SNWA's representatives present their report under agenda item 2, hopefully they can address what they will be doing to significantly reduce large swaths of ornamental turf at government-run parks and public spaces, including golf courses, along with private golf courses. There is nothing in the section titled Water Smart Landscape Rebates requiring or bringing pressure to bear to conserve water at these locations. The conservation focus to date has been on residential users and private commercial users. The southern region headquarters of the Bureau of Reclamation in Boulder City uses over 4 million gallons a year for its ornamental lawn. This ongoing waste by government entities and other golf courses in the service territory needs to change, especially given the enormous consumption of water for parks and golf courses in Boulder City that exceeds the total water consumption of just over 16,000 residents. 105 gallons per capita as a target water consumption level pales in comparison with California's Monterey Peninsula, where per capita water use is just over 40 gallons a day. So we have quite a ways to go to reach real water efficiency in southern Nevada, even though we have no certainty about our ongoing main water supply from the Colorado River. Regarding item number 3 on the updated capital project spreadsheet, we continue to have a substantial mismatch between appropriated money and completed projects. Totaling the fiscal year 21 expenditures and encumbrances against the total appropriations shows that with 1/3 of the year gone, only 16.2% of the budget money has been spent. Yet in agenda item 4, almost $7 million of new utility capital projects are being sought, further perpetuating the enormous backlog. By extension, appropriating this money and not spending it in the current fiscal year arbitrarily and pointlessly increases utility rates. The projects are needed, but the money can't be spent at the same rate it is being appropriated, which means we should stop perpetuating the problem by pushing new projects into future years. While new item number 7 and its draft cost of service study shows no surprising results in the cost of servicing between residential and commercial classes, it points out a real disconnect in water conservation and rates. While the city pays wholesale rates for water and electricity, the extra costs of operations and overhead are absorbed by the other rate classes. The city golf courses need to be recategorized as enterprise funds and become financially self-sufficient while paying retail rates for the water and electricity they consume, which could easily be one recommendation from this committee. In Table 6, the city uses over 1 billion gallons of water a year, with 80% of this for city-owned golf courses. That consumption, again, is just under the amount of water consumed by all 16,000 residential users. So it is a huge subsidization by city residents and business owners who pay the fully burdened retail rate. Additionally, Table 12 in the cost of service study does not adequately break out the proposed $1.4 million in central services the Finance Department claims the utility function uses. We need to see head counts and other details given the proposed 37+% increase in this charge. The city airport, also an enterprise fund, uses considerable central services for legal and contract work, among others, yet is charged far less on a proportional basis than utilities. And I would ask that these comments be added verbatim to the record. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll give about another minute in case anybody else wants to call in, and then we'll move forward. We weren't invited. Okay, I think that, so I'm not hearing any additional calls or comments, and so let's go ahead and get to the agenda that we've discussed. And so we'll start with the agenda item number 1, approval of minutes. So we have the February 5th, June 24th, and September 9th. I think we have a few minor changes. The February 5th, does anybody have any comments on February 5th? We all good with February 5th? Okay. June 24th, let's see, we had minor, that's the one that had the corrections that were highlighted. Is that correct, Eileen? Okay, so Josh, you can just, if you can change just change it to regular. And then, of course, I can't remember which one of them had draft on it, but that'll be also changed once they're final, and we'll have it done. Was there anything on, so anybody else on June 24th? Was there anything on the June 24th minutes? Okay, anything on September 9th? Okay, we're good to go then. So I'd like to make a motion to approve February 5th, June 24th, and September 9th of 2020 minutes.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So we have so the minutes have been approved unanimously. So next then, we have the presentation from SNWA. We're doing pretty good, but I guess what I would suggest is normally I like to go slide by slide to be able to answer it. I would suggest tonight, since we're so tight, that unless somebody has any major objections, that we ask if anybody's had a review and has any questions to start with, that we can ask them questions, and then at the end we can do it instead of going slide by slide. Does anybody have a problem with that?
We ask you a question now?
Yes, if that's okay with. So we'll let her do the introduce herself in the introductions, and then if you're okay, we'll ask a few beginning questions and then let you go forward if that's okay.
Sure, absolutely. My name is Doa Ross. I'm the Deputy General Manager of Engineering for the Southern Nevada Water Authority.
Door to close. Okay, George, go ahead.
Yeah, I understand we've signed a contract with SNWA to purchase electricity, and I was wondering what the cost of that is, how much it's going to cost Boulder City per kilowatt hour.
So what my presentation on today is regarding our major construction and capital plan, which includes the most recent initiative on solar. And I've got some of the dollar figures in there, but if they're more specific beyond what I've got here, I'd have to get that information from our power folks.
Well, I mean, it's a simple question. You didn't understand the question, or?
You're asking how much per kilowatt hour?
Yes.
No, I don't have that. What we have here, and I can get into that into the presentation, is to show you what we're locking our rates in at.
Okay.
I can show you that as well. Okay.
I was curious on the one chart that you have that says resource cost comparisons. You're showing it at about 2.4 cents. That's a SNWA solar PPA purchase power agreement. You're showing it $24.14 per megawatt hour. Is that's 2.4 cents? Is that a good number?
Yes, and then what I've got here is for the PPA cost from SNWA to member agencies. Total is $30.49.
Okay.
Per megawatt hour, then?
Yes, per megawatt hour. Mm-hmm.
And that kind of rings a bell when Scott Kranz did he did the presentation
Yes.
a while back. That was what the cities was looking at the time in purchasing from that site down in the valley. It was around 30 cents.
That's
$30
correct.
anyway, 3 cents anyway.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So my question then is, why is there a 25% upgrade in the electricity cost? You're buying electricity off our land, selling it back to us at a premium of 25%, and the question is why?
This is the cost that's to all member agencies, so everybody is paying that the same. The specific what that extra other than administrative, I would imagine, but I'd have to check to see what that is exactly, and I can ask him that if you want.
Yeah, I'd like to know that because it's electricity off our land. I mean, you're just the middleman. You buy it and then you sell it back to us. I don't see what administration's involved. I don't understand.
We're starting to get off the agenda here because that relates to the MOU,
Yeah.
and we need to find out, I guess, when we go forward with a contract. So that would be nice. I think we can see that in a more larger turnaround time. So also Dennis, so next time when that contract comes up. So I guess the quick thing on that is that anywhere near the future, or is that still got a little ways to go?
The actual PPA has not been signed yet, and the interlocal that we would have with SNWA we haven't even seen a draft of that yet. So, I mean, the city's lease option with IBV Energy just occurred, so it may be a number of months before we actually see the actual PPA and the interlocal agreement with SNWA. And that's when we could have a larger discussion on that issue.
Okay, yeah, as long as there's enough time that we can get it into the draft instead of having it
Dennis,
final.
Will there be a lease price on the land for IBV, whatever the company that's building that project?
There is, yes.
So they're going to be paying to lease the land, I assume.
Okay. And that's money that goes to the general fund. That
All right.
has nothing to do with utilities.
Okay.
So that's why it's different.
Thank you.
Okay. Are any other questions before I resume? Okay. So my role within the organization, as I said, is for engineering and going to be executing our capital plan, which we've just had approved through the SNWA board. The SNWA's responsibilities primarily are under conservation, water supply planning, water quality, infrastructure, and stewardship for the environment. This is just a picture kind of overall showing you what the regional water system looks like. Includes 3 drinking water intakes out of the lake, 3 intake pumping stations, 2 drinking water treatment plants with a total capacity of 900 million gallons a day, a water quality lab and research center, pumping stations, major reservoirs, as well as transmission laterals to be able to move water all through southern Nevada. In September, the SNWA Board of Directors approved 22 recommendations made by the Integrated Resource Planning Advisory Committee, what we call IRPAC. And of those 22 recommendations, they included things including resources, facilities, conservation initiatives, as well as funding strategies to be able to pay for all of those projects. Flip the page here. Whoops, sorry. All right. So the major construction and capital plan is what I'm here really to talk mostly about. There were several different projects that were submitted to be included into the MCCP. Some of them including asset management, repair and replacement, and maintenance of the existing system, as well as major projects such as Horizon Lateral that will help to provide redundancy to the southern portion of our valley, as well as Garnet Valley system out to the north. And the total cost of this plan is just under $3.2 billion. Now, a big piece of the recommendations that came from IRPAC was regarding the Nevada Renewable Portfolio Energy Standard. Now, previously, we had volunteered to put in a lot of renewable energy into our portfolio to be compliant with what was the Nevada Renewable Portfolio Standard at the time, which is 25% by the year 2025. We're currently sitting at 20%. But with the recent Senate Bill 358 that was passed in 2019 legislature, that raised that a minimum now to 50% by the year 2030. And with most recent passage of the state ballot question number 6 that amended Nevada's constitution to include this Senate bill requirement. So now our goal target is to get there at that 50% renewable by the year 2025. The IBV project is going to help us get there and exceed it. So in 2018, SNWA issued a request for information for 50 megawatts of solar power. We entered into an MOU with IBV to further pursue their proposed development. In September of 2019, IBV was awarded the solar land lease from Boulder City for 1,100 acres, allowing 130 megawatts of solar power development. In November of 2020, Boulder City Council approved an 1,100-acre land lease for the project's development. So this table right here shows you kind of a resource cost comparison and $1 per megawatt hour. IBV will build, own, and operate the solar plant. SNWA will enter into a 25-year purchase power agreement with them. Bringing your attention to that bottom yellow bar, that shows you what we're anticipating to be paying in the year 2023. If you assume a 1% escalation, by 2047, what it would be for the market power is what we're paying now. If we enter into this agreement for the power purchase agreement, we'll be paying significantly less, and that price locks in, which means it locks in for all our purveyor members as well, all the way through to 2047. And you can see what the market price would be. We're more than half of that at that time. So it secures a lot for us. The project's components include 10-mile expansion of the SNWA's existing transmission system for power, double circuit 230 kV power line, which includes all the components within that, and then also a 230 kV switch yard. Now, once complete, the transmission expansion will interconnect with the new solar photovoltaic system, the Boulder Flat Solar, and that can convey up to 130 megawatts. If you look at the year 2030, which was the original goal and what is set in the new Senate Bill 358, our target would be for 50%. But with this IBV 88 megawatt solar, we're going to be way over that minimum requirement for what we're required to have by state. The project status right now is that we're negotiating the final PPA and the development services agreement for the 10-mile transmission interconnection line. The BLM environmental assessment and right-of-way applications will be filed soon. Total project size is nearly finalized with letters of intent from each of the interested member agencies. And then SNWA will develop a simplified SNWA member agency PPA to mirror its agreement with IBV. The benefits to Boulder City, as I mentioned, our overall plan, which just went forward and was approved by the board, was almost $3.2 billion. It's being paid for through commodity charge and infrastructure connection, regional connection charges, which Boulder City is not subject to. So it's important for you guys to understand that you guys are going to be able to benefit from this without having to pay for it. The community will receive solar land lease revenues as you have already entered into those agreements with IBV. Additional electrical infrastructure will be readily available in case Boulder City wants to interconnect.
Could you tell me a little bit what that means? Does that mean that we have access to the substation so we can build our own line down there, or we can tap in at Meade substation?
There will be availability for interconnects.
Okay, so we don't necessarily have to build facilities. We can use backfeed from Meade substation because that's where SNWA is coming out of anyway, I would assume.
I believe so. I'm not the expert on the power, so I'd have to defer that back to Scott Krantz, but I believe that that's what that intent was.
And I saw in the presentation here when I read through it, it looked like a 3 megawatt share for Boulder City. I thought it was going to be more than that. Dennis, was it going to be more than 3 meg? I thought it was going to be 8 to begin with.
Originally, it was going to be 8, well, it's still going to be 8 total, but there was a previous land lease option with one of the other, with the Townsite LLC solar folks that had already included 5, and I wasn't even aware of that at the time, because it was quite some time ago. So we're getting 5 from Townsite.
So we're going to get a total of 8 between the two.
We're getting a total of 8, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Thank you, Dennis. So the project schedule right now is that for May of 2021 is when we'd begin the engineering design and procurement. January of 22 is when we'd begin construction, and December 22 is when we'd be estimated for completion. As I mentioned, in September of 2020, URBPAC recommended increases to SNWA's commodity and connection charges, but Boulder City's customers are not subject to these and will not be impacted by the rate increases that were recently approved. Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question because this system uses battery storage, I think, and so how does that factor into the agreement with SNWA?
The IBV does?
Yeah.
You know that one, huh?
IBV was originally looking at battery storage. At this point in time, they're not, and it wasn't something that SNWA was necessarily interested in either, is my understanding. They are looking at a phase 2 where they may add battery storage, but right now it's not in the first phase.
Okay, because NV Energy is signing power purchase agreements at 1.5 cents per kilowatt hour, so you're at almost double that. And so why are you power purchase agreements if you don't have battery storage? Why is it so much more than what NV Energy is signing?
That I do not know.
So I think we need to let's put this towards on the last, going for future agenda items, because I see we have concerns and we need to be able to discuss it more. We might even want to do it at a workshop where it'd be easier to discuss. I guess you could take some of the questions back, that this committee does have some questions on future electoral issues. That would be great.
Absolutely.
And then Dennis, I guess as soon as we can get something on an agenda item to start discussing how it's going to look, and if we can negotiate with Southern Nevada at all. So there's certain times I know we can negotiate, other times there's not really, but it'd be nice to understand that.
Sure, absolutely. And I can definitely get some of these questions that you've got answered and direct them back through you guys.
And I can pretty much say for certain, we're not going to get a different rate from the other member agencies.
No, but it just, if we can discuss it, but this isn't the time to discuss it, so we need to put it on another agenda item.
I understand. Any other questions?
I have a few, but does anybody?
Sure.
So I guess, so I just want to make sure that I understand correctly. So there are a few items that do if I understand benefit Boulder City or a potential, the first thing is there, you've got the straw, is it the third straw, the lower pump is in, so in the additional information we were given, you have a breakdown of the different things that are happening in the next, was it 10 years or so? And go ahead.
Correct. Yeah, the low lake level pump station does benefit everyone. And that, we had to include a portion of it into this most recent MCCP, and it's really only the final cleanup that's left. Everything else has been done.
And we've already paid for our share.
That project's already been done. It's been paid for and actually came in way ahead of schedule and under budget. But the remaining piece that's left to spend is the cleanup of Lakeshore Drive and repaving and beautification and putting it all back to what Park Service wants.
Okay. And then the resource integration, or the look into the additional resources.
Yes.
To offset Colorado River, that's quite a bit starting in fiscal year 26. That's quite a bit of cost.
Yes.
And so are we going to be included in that? Is any of our costs going to be increased in the future to compensate for that?
No, again, everything that's been proposed, all the 22 recommendations, everything that's being proposed is being paid for through the commodity charge and the regional connection charge, both of which are not subject to Boulder City.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure I understand, and
That's okay.
And there's no confusion. So, okay, well, that's good news for Boulder City. Then I guess the last one is I think there's been some confusion in the city, and making sure that I don't see it on here, and I guess I just seen what the story is. So there was originally proposed a pumping plant or a pumping facility for the wastewater from Boulder City to Henderson to try to get it back down to the lake.
Right.
So it's not in here. We've been told that, and this is, like I said, is this a 10-year, or I guess try to make sure I believe it's about a 10-year plan.
Yes.
So it's not in here, so it hasn't been canceled, postponed, or what's the story with that?
Absolutely removed.
It's been removed.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not listed in any of our projects.
Okay, I'm just there again just to make sure I understand properly.
Understand. Yes.
So. Okay, I guess that's the biggest thing I have then. Anything? So that's good news for us. So basically, this is information because a lot of the stuff doesn't seem to affect Boulder City.
No.
A lot of
It'll benefit you.
Some will, some won't, because of some of the expansions in the rest of this out in the Vegas area. So that's what, good to understand the overall cost.
Right,
So.
absolutely. And as far as the question from the customer on the phone regarding conservation, I can absolutely have Colby come back and speak with you guys at another time if you'd like. Conservation is her thing. She's, I mean, I can speak to it a little bit, but I do know that within our own resource plan, we've put a very firm goal of reducing our non-functional turf throughout all of the users. So this is something that we are trying to aim for. But if you want her to come back and specifically address, I can definitely arrange for that.
I think right now, we'll probably put it on an agenda item in the future.
Okay.
And then maybe we can, once we've discussed it within the committee, then ask for some clarification.
Sounds good.
And so does that sound reasonable to the committee?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I had one question also.
Yes, go ahead.
So you're doing $3.2 billion of infrastructure development, but we were told that water usage due to conservation efforts is decreasing. Why does it cost an extra $3 billion to use less water?
Well, we're having to use water smart. We are still growing. Southern Nevada has grown over 40%, but even though the water use has dropped on a per capita, but still some of that money, and the 3.2 covers everything. So it covers our initiatives on trying to secure additional resources, which one of the things is we're going after a partnership with Metropolitan Water District in California to have them leave a share of water back into the river for us. There's a lot of different things. Part of it also is the conservation program for the turf removal, and we're, of course, really going after that non-functional turf area, trying to get that removed. Not so much, I mean, we feel like we've done a lot and really made a huge effort with the single-family residential, but the medians in the middle of a road that have grass that nobody ever picnics on, that's the kind of stuff we think we could really save some more water. The actual construction cost is probably a little over $2 billion. The rest of it is for all of the other programs, including this power program. So the money is for a lot of different things, and 22 items to be specific, actually. And that 3.2 is just really capturing it all. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you for coming out here. Thank you very much for your
All
time
right,
and
thank you.
presentation. Appreciate it. Okay, so we will close item number 2 and go to item number 3 on ongoing capital. Then,
You can leave now. Okay, I'll just do an update. In your packet, you should have received a update on the utility capital funds as of 10/31/2020. And before I start, I will tell you that the conversion of the projects that have rolled just occurred in Munis, so in our November report will look quite a bit different. Just an update on a few items. Probably the biggest one, which is actually going in front of City Council on December 8th, is we opened bids for the Arizona Street feeder project. And to give you a little bit of history, we did have some concerns over the budget we had available for that project, so we split it into a couple of different bid packages. The amount we had available, which was shown in UE 182, was the 1.156 million. The actual bid came in quite a bit higher at about let's see. I think the total was a little over 1.6, somewhere in that range. So we're giving the City Council the option of just bidding one of those packages or amending the budget and moving money from a project that we have not spent anything, that's not a priority, to be able to award the entire project. So that's what will be going to council on December 8th. Our preference, because Arizona Street is a priority, is to award the entire thing.
So a question on that Arizona Street project, is that just running from the city shops at the end of Arizona Street to Nevada Way? That's the distance of that project?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, just that section, so you've got those Birch, Cherry, and Ash Streets that
Right.
you're gonna be crossing.
Right.
And you're running how many circuits? 4 circuits from there? 4 underground circuits? 5?
That's there.
4 underground circuits, okay. It came in at 1.6 million.
Yeah, and we did do an assessment of what's going on with the bids. There certainly has been some significant construction cost increases in the last 2 years for sure. We actually had quite a few bidders, but and the low bidder was a company by the name of, I can say their name, Nair Underground. We haven't worked with them before, but we did check their references. They've got good references, and so our recommendation, just because it is a priority project, is to award the entire thing.
Just curious, Marvis, are you running 500 MCM conductor on that? Oh, you're a million, oh really?
There's actually 3 circuits, 11, 13, and 16.
11, 13, and million, wow, okay, that's big stuff.
Which project are we talking about here on this list?
The feeder Arizona, UE 182. It's almost at the bottom of the electrical. You see it down there?
Do we have that on the?
It's not on the CIP, I don't see it.
Yes, it's on the very.
Where you have,
No, it's on the updated capital project year to date.
you had a spreadsheet in the packet there, which
No, there's
has
2 of them.
electric 2103, et cetera. Which one of those is that?
It's UE 183. Are you looking at the utility fund capital projects year to date spreadsheet?
I'm looking at the utility CIP for FY22.
Yeah, that's the wrong one.
That's this one, George.
Oh, so it's been updated or something?
Yeah.
No, it's on the top of the. If it's on the computer, it came beforehand, so it's related to item number 3.
But why isn't it on that other CIP 22?
Because it was not FY '22.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so I'm
It's a
behind.
previous project, yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry.
Now, so does that finish up, once that's completed, that finish up the connection to substation 1?
Correct. And then that allows for the prioritization of the other projects to continue.
Now, the feeder, so I don't want to take a whole lot of time, we have a little bit of time, so I guess we might want to go to it in more detail, but you have the feeders at the top of that list. So the first one, feeder 63, says substation 3, so is any of those associated with substation 1? Or I guess maybe the question is where are we at with those, and are those in the priorities of getting the substation 1 and 2 completed, I guess? Because all this stuff needs to be done so we can transfer from 4K to 12 and get rid of substation 1 and 2 are the major issues.
Right, and as far as those feeder ties that you see there, you can see they're ongoing, there's progress being made, encumbrances, and I would anticipate all those to be done by the end of this fiscal year.
Okay, because I think some of these have been on it says 2019, but I'm not sure some have been on for longer than that.
It's possible.
So it's just trying to get an understanding,
Yeah. And so we are trying to get those completed.
Because I think that's the thing related to this one that we might have to discuss more at the workshop is still how much are we going to roll over into 22? And so we're suggesting that this committee has agreed that everything in 22 needs to be done.
Right.
But there's going to be a large amount rollover into 22, so that's going to increase the cost even more. So again, we're going to have a very large. It's also referring to what Fred's talking about. I guess
Right.
we just need to. We've sort of talked about it a little bit as we've gone, and again, I don't want to take a lot of time today, but I think just get ready for the workshop. Maybe is how can we just need to continue to understand what we can do and how we can make sure that these things do get done.
Right, and we did take the entire number, once we add construction management services and testing and all that stuff, and put it back into the model, just to see how it impacted the future cash flow.
Okay.
And we can make it work.
Okay.
With the Arizona Street Feeder project.
Well, if that's an important one, I think that's what thing it needs to be emphasized. It needs to be completed. So you can't, if you do part of it, then when you're going to get the rest of it done?
Right. We would have to do it on or before FY '23 anyway. And my anticipation is if we separated those bid packages and waited to bid the second part, even if it would just cost more and we'd lose time. So.
Unfortunately, though, because you just in September they included another almost $1 million to the BC TAP to Buchanan line. So we've had some pretty good increases to this ongoing aspect.
Yes.
And then what project were you saying that might be either?
So it's I got to find it right here. Is the underground cable replacement?
I thought that had a major aspect with reliability and all that also.
That was more for Marvis on a maintenance perspective, so we have flexibility with that one because he also has some of that in his operating budget, so we can make it work. Especially once we get back to a normal budget in FY '22, because we sliced his maintenance budget, but we also gave him some capital.
Okay.
Because if you remember, with the COVID-19 operating budget, we eliminated quite a bit of electricals maintenance fund.
Yeah, and okay.
So assuming we're back to a normal FY '22, which our revenues are fine, we should be back to where we wouldn't need this immediately, or maybe possibly not even at all. If we did need it, we could put it out way in the future. Okay.
That would be a big help, I guess. So that's what you're going to present to the council is that
yes.
You've got that project and the reason that can be put off and why this one has to be done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm sure that'll be a long discussion.
Okay. Is there anything else in the electrical that you wanted to point out?
In the electrical, I think we're getting pretty close to 90% drawings on the BC Tap to Buchanan, so that's moving forward pretty well. We are, just to clean up some of the confusion, we are taking the FY21 projects to City Council. I don't know if it's going to be at this meeting or the first meeting in January, just to make sure they're comfortable with us moving ahead, because there was been that confusion on whether they're frozen or not. So we're starting to work on them, and we're taking them to council just to make sure they're comfortable with that.
One more question on the BC Tap to Buchanan. That number is up about almost close to $10 million now. Was that new numbers that you got, or is that because of the design build scenario? Or
that was basically just, we had better plans.
Was that right?
By the time we got to 60%, they were able to develop a better cost estimate.
So they think it's going to cost about that much to come all the way from the tap all the way to
That's the
Buchanan?
total cost.
Is
I
it?
mean, that contract has been signed.
Okay, and it's a long way, so.
And that one is, so we're looking at, so is that a chance of being done at the, see, it was into fiscal 22, or is that going to, into fiscal 21 or going into 22? So August of 21, so into fiscal year 22.
Right. And
Okay.
I believe we start to get polls in March? And somewhere in March. So you won't really see a lot of action until those polls come in.
Yeah, so I guess we need to figure out how to, well, I think definitely by April probably, it would be good to understand what we anticipate to roll over into the fiscal 22.
Right.
Because that's going to affect what everything's spent and can you actually get it accomplished in 22 or not. So maybe we can start that again at the workshop on the 16th.
Yep. And that's pretty much the main items I have for this one, unless you guys have any other questions.
I was looking, I'd mentioned it before, and so this is updated, so I just want to make sure it's going to be, I know that you said there's a lot of other things going on and time restraints, but I know at least one in the water, the El Dorado line, that one needs to be moved out into 22 and 23, so it'd be nice to get rid of that there, so we're not, people aren't thinking we still have to get that done this year, so that's,
Are you talking about the PRVs?
Yeah, the PRV design for El Dorado Valley, the W2008.
Yeah, and to put this in perspective, we're still kind of looking at that, but we anticipate at least 2 PRVs, so that $550,000 is accurate, combined.
Okay, that's
What's in
news
the
to
plan.
us, I think. I don't think, my understanding was 250, then now we've just doubled it.
Well, it was 250 plus the 50 and the 250.
Okay,
So
because you,
550 for 2 PRVs, which is about right. You
Okay,
can't
well,
do
there-
it with just one.
okay, that was a misunderstanding from the last meeting, so.
Okay, sorry about that.
Is there anything else that was, so, okay, so then, what about the National Park Service? Is that something that you've,
We just met with them recently. They seem to be favorable to just converting that portion of the water they use, the raw water they use, to potable. So we've sent them, because they didn't have a copy of their own, the agreement with us, so we sent them that agreement. We took them out to that pump station and showed them the challenges we were having out there. There's extensive pitting in that piping, and they just don't use that much water. So it would make more sense to convert, because potable's right down there at Boulder Beach anyways, and just take them off the system. Would cost them a little bit more for water, but it's not a very efficient irrigation system anyways. It's open ditch, so so they seem to be favorable to that. So we're waiting, kind of right now, waiting to hear back from them. The ball's in their court.
okay, so once you confirm that, then that'll be addressed on the sheet.
Yeah, and then there's probably some issues we need to work out on our end on portions of that we may not want to use anymore either. But that would also require us to convert some of that grass along Hemingway to potable as well. But that pipeline's 70 years old, and we know what the condition of it is inside the pump station, which is not good, but we have no idea on the underground. So, and it's very high pressure. I think it's about 400 plus right at the pump station.
Good. I think, I guess, that if we can just continue on with trying to figure out how the ongoing is gonna affect the 22 and what's gonna be voted on as fiscal year 22 and then even the 5-year plan. If we can continue discussing that, the sooner the better, then we can try to get an idea of what we can, because again, on the Buchanan, there's a good chance that a lot of that money is gonna roll into 22. So just the more we understand what could be completed this year and what's gonna roll
Right.
over would be helpful.
And it wouldn't be a huge issue, frankly, to remove this eventually. I just think we would need to hear back from the Park Service before we made that determination.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Like I said, I agree with you. You don't want to take it off, then find out, okay, nothing
Right.
happened. So I appreciate that. It's just
Right.
making sure that, there again, I guess if we can go through this in a little more detail when we have time, then maybe,
And I guess realistically, even adding the PRV doesn't fix the long-term problem, or even the potential issue.
not if you're saying that, yeah, if you've got all these other issues.
Right, so-
Exactly.
I don't see really the need to go spend the money on the PRV if we
Okay.
can't fix the problem.
Okay, so I think for ongoing projects, that does it for me. Anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, and same thing on the water and sewer for those 21 projects. We're just putting those in front of city council just to make sure they're comfortable with us moving ahead, because we want to get those done.
Yeah, no, I agree, and we definitely need to figure out where we're at, so start them and figure out what we can get done, because it's definitely gonna affect the 22 and the future 5-year
Yeah.
plan.
Right. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So I guess now we'll go to, I think in the package, we had we had the 5-year plan and also our report. So what I'd recommend is that we just discuss the 5-year plan quickly and then put the reports into, I guess it'll be numbers. We're gonna push number 5 down and even after the future agenda, and then we're gonna go to, so that we'll look at, after this one, then we'll be looking at the reports that we can look at and vote on tonight. So Dennis, do you want to go over, give a quick review of the SIP, the fiscal 22 and the 5-year?
I made the mistake of printing on both sides. So the FY '22 hasn't changed from our last discussion, and the report that you guys drafted still is accurate with what's shown in FY '22. We did have the CIP workshop with City Council last night and let them know that you guys will be having this discussion and potential action today. So I think they were glad to hear that.
So how did that meeting go? I think we can discuss it quickly since it's related to this.
Are you talking about the entire meeting?
Well,
Or just the utility part?
Just the utility
Oh,
part.
it went great.
Okay.
And I think that's just because they know this committee's been reviewing this information. The meeting was long.
So,
Maybe. Yes, actually, they are fixing some of those.
did anybody else have any questions? Was there anything on here?
I
Dennis?
tell you, just to give you, because we just had the discussion, one of the issues the mayor brought up is exactly what we've been talking about. Do we have those resources to get these projects done? So I think that's a conversation we need to keep having.
Yeah, I watched the thing on TV just earlier today. I think what he was asking is, why are we not doing, the projects that we say we're going to be doing? We ask for this much money and then we use less, and it's not clear where the money's going and so on. So he had maybe more critical questions than I think we've been asking at our committee, and so.
The biggest problem was the COVID, okay? So, yeah, we've got money for projects, but guess what? All the linemen I know over on the central states and the East Coast, they're making money over there while we're still trying to figure out what's critical and what's not, so they can work.
Well, he was referring to the last few years. Presumably COVID would cover, from March of this year. He was referring to the last several years.
Yeah, and what he did bring up, which is something we had talked about and did the analysis on, is, can we do more of this work in-house? if you remember, pre-COVID, we had requested 2 additional linemen in the FY21 budget, and then COVID kind of took that away. And then we had 2 vacancies. So right now, it would be very difficult for us to do hardly any real construction in-house or have a construction crew. It's mostly just maintenance at this point.
Have you ever talked to the city manager about the fact that the revenues coming into the city have not decreased where they thought they might be?
Yes.
And
Yeah, I think
and-
from a utility perspective, there's no real
Right.
concerns. The confusion that happened, I believe, was in that one meeting in the summer or whenever it occurred, or maybe it was in March, where there was a discussion. I think it was really focused on the general fund, because there were concerns, and they had reduced the general fund budget pretty substantially, the revenues. But if you go back and listen to it, it sounds like utilities were included in that. So that's why we're going to clear up here shortly, and we're moving forward on them, frankly, anyway. So
Okay.
yeah, the revenues on water, sewer, and electric are all good.
Well, even total revenues for the city are up 17% in the first 4 or 5 months of this year.
Yeah, and the finance director is going to be reporting that to council, I believe, at the December 8th meeting,
Okay,
so they can see some of that information.
right.
From our perspective, all we were really concerned about was the quarter-cent sales tax on the water and sewer side. There was a reduction, but it wasn't significant. Although we only get that quarterly, so you only have a little bit of that information, but.
I had 2 additional comments. I think one was mentioned about the, so I don't know if it goes here or if it goes, we can definitely discuss it, I think, in the capital meeting, in our workshop, because it would also associate with the rate study going forward, or at least the budget going forward. And it was my understanding that utility is looking for a software program that would help.
Yeah, my intent is to, one of the things we don't have and we should have, that frankly the entire city should have, but even if I was a separate utility from the city, I would have an updated computerized management maintenance system so that we can manage all our assets better and all the work orders better and track the data better. All of that we do essentially by a bunch of different spreadsheets and handwritten type notes. So that's something I plan on putting in the operating budget for the implementation of that, and then the seat licenses that we would be required to pay for. It's not a significant cost, especially given our $30 million combined utility. I think the implementation cost is less than $60,000, and then there's an annual seat license. So I don't have those numbers in front of me, but that's certainly something I think we desperately need.
But is that something you're proposing for 22?
Yes.
So unfortunately, then it'd be about a year or so before we would even see any, well, after sometime in 22 before we'd even start seeing.
Yeah, it'd probably be January 1 before you had it implemented and started using it.
Because I think going forward, there's a lot of questions, and I don't know if we can get it in a spreadsheet format or something to sort of get an idea. You've got a spreadsheet, but somehow to understand what's happened in the past, not put any blame on anything, just
Right.
figure out, okay, how can we give everybody more confidence that we're going to get things done in 22 and 23 and
Right.
stuff like that. So
Right.
my understanding, so this management package, I would think, would be a lot to go forward. Unfortunately, that's not going to help us for this year.
No.
It's something that we can,
Yeah.
maybe we as a committee can help you to say, yes, this is something that we see value in. And again, we're just advisory, we're not approving it, we're just trying to help.
Yep, and I appreciate that.
Dennis, is that gonna be?
Yeah, you would think that $60,000 is not a lot of money if it's gonna help that much when we've got so much money coming in. And we're always changing budgets.
I can tell you that it will make these 2 guys back here, their jobs way more efficient.
Yeah, so you would think that could be easily slipped into
Yeah.
the current year.
Dennis, did you say that was for all utilities?
Yeah,
CMMS?
yeah, so
Okay.
that's electric, water, sewer.
Okay, good.
Landfill, we don't
No,
necessarily need that.
I definitely support that.
Yeah.
All divisions of our massive utility system.
So we've got good GIS data, but it's not tied to any management system. So
Right.
we would certainly, what we've been looking at is a product that has the tie to the GIS.
And I guess just to plant the seeds, because it might be something to understand for again, in the meeting. So I guess we do ongoing the CAP, the CIP and the rate study in our meeting on the 16th. We'll discuss that at the close to the last item here more. But if I saw the SIP presentation that went for yesterday, they were stating that the irrigation for the municipal, for changing the potable water in the municipal golf course to irrigation has been reallocated, which I'm assuming has been postponed or denied.
I might stumble through this a little bit because it's not one of my projects, but from what I understood is they had only allocated or budgeted for $1 million for that replacement of that Munich golf course system. As they started meeting with irrigation design consultants and some of these guys that have done some of the projects in the valley recently, you typically got to take 9 holes out at a time because you still want to operate part of your golf course. It was coming in at $1 million per 9. So it was $2 million for that. So I think for now, yeah, that's off the books.
Yeah, I guess because the concern wouldn't be, so again, we can talk a little bit about it at the rate, because I guess it would have been nice to sort of look at that in the rate study, because, at the cost of potable water compared to the raw water, was that even justifiable? I think people was concerned with that, so I guess maybe we can do it on our own somewhere, but that's...
Yeah, we could. I mean, it's basically a 25% difference between potable and raw. And then the Southern Nevada Water Authority has a system where they provide to the golfers. I don't know if it's Southern Nevada Water Authority or our guys at the golf course. As they're playing, the GPS is tracking them. So they know where there's turf that's not being utilized for at least most golfers. For me, I'm all over the place, so I play the whole course. But so then they recommend, when they do that analysis, what turf they can remove.
Why can't we go forward as a city and convert that from potable to non-potable at the meter? In other words, we don't need to redo the golf course to change that. We might have to drop a line into the clubhouse for their cooking and drinking and stuff, but I think the city is a benefactor because they're paying the wholesale rate at the muni course, okay? And I think that we need to take and start conserving our potable water. To swing that over from potable to non-potable, I don't think costs $2 million.
No.
That could be done on the city side of the house under the water lateral main improvement project.
That would probably be less than, the way that golf, if I'm remembering right, the way that golf course is plumbed up, it's 2 separate meters, north and south along Buchanan. So there'd be 2 connections, so you'd have to go on the road and make those connections and do some meter work, replacement work, or whatever you have to do. I don't know how much it'd be, but that is an option.
Well, the reason I'm making the statement, because if the golf course improvement project has been delayed, if we're saving 25% as the city from the potable water to the non-potable water, that 25% could be put in the bank for the next project.
Right. It could also pay for the existing project to make the conversion.
Yeah, so I think whether this falls under CAP or the rate study, this is something that the utility should be talking about because we're paying for it. The utility rates are paying because they're paying. Well, we're involved, put it that way.
Right, we're involved. The intent at the time was entirely a general fund project, even making the connections to convert it to raw. But if that's something we wanted to take on, that's something that can certainly be
So are those
discussed.
those two lines run parallel down Buchanan, the potable and non-potable?
Mm-hmm.
And how, I mean, they're not, can't be that far apart, so it would be that.
6 foot.
No, it's
the piping
the
probably
conversion part itself is
maybe a
not very
$20,000
difficult.
job or something, you know, so
Yeah, no, it's probably more than that, but,
maybe 50, but.
Yeah, the general fund's paying for it, but it's affecting our rates, and that's even
Right.
stated in the study, and that's sort of what, and that's Fred,
No,
Fred brought that up too, and I think that's one of the first places that we're gonna wanna look in related to the study is the golf courses. and how
yeah,
it's
you could
affecting.
certainly make the argument.
Why don't we take and entertain the idea or look into the possibility of that dropping into the water 20-106 project?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so that ties it into this, that ties it into this agenda, so if you could look into that, so you're talking about fiscal year 25? Greg?
Well, I think he's talking about next year.
No, we've got an ongoing project right now called Water 20-106. And that's $600K a year, all the way out till 2026.
Are you talking
And-
about
and
you
that-
talking about the copper?
Yeah, because
Okay.
that is basically what you're dealing with is a lateral line replacement.
Okay, I was looking at the wrong one, sorry.
Yeah, I
No.
mean,
Okay, so as we starting next year, it's part of
You could.
600,000.
you could, I think what I'd probably recommend, just so we track it, is that if we made that decision, because we can go back and see how much we think it would cost to do that, then I would probably suggest we come back and, provide that information to the committee on, okay, it's $200,000. That is a potential to take it out of the program, and then that could go forward.
Well, what I'm looking at is you've got 25% reduction in cost. You got a plus to the fact you're getting off the potable water and going non-potable. The city's paying wholesale costs of both items, but still there's a 25% difference. And even if the golf course doesn't change for 2 years, at $1 million gallons a month, I think it was, that's still a savings at the end of 1 year one, and then year two, to where that would definitely help the city overall.
Yeah, we could do that math really easy and bring that back.
Yeah, I'd say that you think it'd be good if we started talking about it, so maybe even on the 16th. So that's the reason I harp on it
Yeah,
now.
we could probably come back with some conceptual numbers on the 16th, and
Okay, sounds good. I appreciate it all, so I guess we're gonna have to move forward. Is there anything else on the capital or anything related to the capital? Okay, so we're gonna so we will then close out, item number 4. And so we're pushing item number 5 to a new item number 7. And so now we'll go to item number 6 for possible discussion of timescales and completion and draft report. So I guess whichever report we can bring up first, I don't think it really matters. We have 2 reports that we drafted in our workshop. And so I have a few little tweaks myself. If we can bring up whichever one we can get to first, and then discuss it really quick. And if we're happy with it, then we can decide on voting on that, and then we'll go into the next one. So the one thing as he's looking at that, thanks a lot, Josh, appreciate it. One thing that I looked at is that we put the date on there, but I think to make sure that it was voted on today, we either put somewhere that it was voted on December 2nd, something like that, and would that be underneath or whatever? What is it you want to do? Just do that, just right there. Because if we pass it, then do we want to say something different? Does anybody have any? Eileen, you're one of our experts on all this.
We've got the 18th on there.
Like I said, that's the date that we created it. So,
We've got December 18th.
oh, okay, thank you. That'd be the 2nd. But Eileen, do you have any suggestion so I'm just trying to figure out, to make sure that we remember, the committee understands that we drafted it. I don't know, do we even say drafted on the 18th and voted? Or does it matter?
The reason the date was put on there as to the conceptual of the paperwork is there was too many different documents floating around. So if we date it and we number the pages, nobody's gonna get lost as to the date of the document and the pages that are with the document.
No, I understand, and I agree. See, now somehow we got the two not centered, so try to be a technical weenie here, sorry. Thank you. Okay, okay, I guess we're gonna discuss, so right now, the other change that I recommend is on, so if you go down to where we were discussing, and if people have any addition, we can come back, but on the bottom where it's 2103, where right down there, 2103. Okay, so right where it's in bold electric -20-103. So what I would suggest is we change that to this is necessary to build. So the Red Mountain discussion line rebuild project period, or colon, I guess, to be consistent with the other ones. And then get rid of the electric 20-103 and says this is necessary to rebuild, and then we're more consistent with what we've said above with the other ones. So yeah, if you don't mind putting that up there, Josh, and see if everybody is okay with that. I don't see any reason we need to repeat the number. So now this is necessary to rebuild the distribution line for 12 kV and replace the poles and upgrade hardware as needed, right? Yep.
I would say maybe to rebuild the distribution line to 12 kV instead of 4 12 kV.
Okay, no, good.
To 12 kV.
Now, Marvis, is that correct then? You're doing it to 12 kV, not to make it available for 12 kV. Okay. Sorry, Ned, I just want to make sure that. Okay, thank you. Any other comments on that? So I think that's the biggest one I wanted to make sure. I was just there again trying to help why we're suggesting it. Eileen, did you have any comments? You weren't here, so that's why I'm not trying to single you out, but you weren't here, so I want to make sure you had an opportunity. Okay, so we need to wait for Greg to come back to make sure there's no additional comments. So let's just go back to the top again right quick and maybe just go through it, or just the concept. So we have a date, we have a review, it's a review of the utility capital improvement. So what we're gonna do, so maybe that's one thing we can talk about really quick, is so Eileen, I'm not sure, we're going to ask Dennis or the city to email this to the city council. And then we're also going to ask for feedback for that. And so I don't know if we need to put anything in here or just ask that something that the city writes something in the email about it, because so do we need anything else in this document to make anything clear? So
the tentative approval by city council is slated for January 26th. So if we get it to them, that gives us time actually to answer questions they may have or any modifications they prefer in our January meeting, and then be ready for their tentative approval on the 26th of January.
I have one question. I'm not comfortable with the sentence at the end of the whole report where it says all of the capital projects, blah, blah. The UAC recommends that all of the projects be approved. I'm not comfortable with that. I asked to see the supporting information. You know, they had one sheet of paper which says, here's what we want to do, and then supporting document, and there was a document, and I haven't been allowed to see that document. And I'm not comfortable with that sentence when we can't see the supporting evidence. That's just me. So I'm not prepared to support this. The stuff I put in was just, here's what I know given the evidence I have. But that's a big step from going to that to saying I support this, because all the evidence I have is hearsay.
Yeah.
I don't have the supporting
And I
documents.
think the easiest answer for that is to, we could schedule an appointment with you or any of the others to review that report that was done by SAIC that kind of set the framework for the upgrades.
Right, but in fairness, I asked to meet with you, I can't even remember now, 3 weeks ago. I asked to see the report at the last meeting.
Okay, well, I'm sorry about that. I think I was thinking of something else that you were wanting to see.
No, that was exactly what I was...
Okay. Well, we can do that very soon.
Well, anyway, I'm not prepared to support this without seeing the evidence. I don't think... We are not credible as a body if we're saying, well, you know, basically I'm trusting Greg, who's very knowledgeable, and I'm trusting Ned, who's very knowledgeable. But I don't see how I can go to the council and say, well, I didn't see any evidence for anything, but I'm trusting these guys who know a hell of a lot more than me. Why can't I see the evidence before I vote? That's...
It would have been nice to know that last meeting. I know that we had some...
I said it at the last meeting. I requested a meeting with Dennis previously to precisely do that. I mean, how many times do I have to say it?
Okay, I misunderstood that that was tied to this comment, so I apologize then.
Well, I'm a slow thinker. I didn't respond to that comment then because I was sort of, I don't want to disagree with everything on impact. I like to think things over. And I was like, look, that was put in, and I was like, instinctively, I was like, wait a minute, that wasn't what I had in mind. But then I had asked to see the supporting evidence. I don't think we're trustworthy as a committee if we're saying we're just taking people's word for things without seeing what things are based on. That's just me. You know, I'm one of 7.
Good, Greg, good.
Number one, getting all the supporting documents and everything, I can understand that, but some of this stuff is not for publication to the general public. It's just like our power lines, our water lines, how they're run, how they work, and how they operate. We have to be careful what we're asking for, and the reason this committee was formed with the amount of knowledge and base that it has is to be able to guide and direct the members to any questions or difficulties they have understanding stuff. This is all transparent information. The problem is that we can vote yay or nay on this however we want to vote, but in the spirit of the CIP projects for 22, we talked about this and have beat this horse to death almost. And the thing is, on the face, if you read the project and you read the project number, George, you've said this all along. We need to be consistent on our numbering. We need to make sure it follows through, and that's why some of these numbers are getting lost and transposed and just mixed up. All the carry forwards and stuff, just for everybody's benefit and everything, is to the people that work the utility side of the house. Some of this stuff we need, and this is where we got caught with our pants down, is a year-long lead item. So by holding off on these projects and delaying them and not buying the material, we are actually building in a cost escalation factor of almost 100% on these items. Steel poles don't rot in the desert. Buy them, store them. Okay, pipe does not rot in the desert. Buy it, store it. Even if you got to buy a container to stick PVC pipe in, which I've done personally, it's a cheaper way to do it than have the cost escalation go up on the material. So whether or not we want to move forward and approve these projects, just like what's stated at the bottom, okay, we've got the original document, George, that was not on there. Okay, I agree with you, that was added. My thing is, I don't have any problem with it if we put it to a vote. That's where the rubber hits the road.
No, I don't have a problem either. I'm just going to object, that's all. We're a democracy, you can still be in a minority. But the SAIC document was provided as supporting evidence. If it's not available to us, that's not what I was told. If it's not available, I accept that. I'm not trying to put my nose in where, you know, there's secret information that we're not allowed to see, but that's not what I was told. And if it's put in the thing as supporting evidence and we ask to see it and we can't.
You're more than welcome to come and see it.
So.
It's just something we can't send out.
No, I understand that. I'm not asking to, I don't want to endanger the grid, although my only rhetorical comment is we're losing about as many people a day as 9/11, the whole 9/11 was. So if we're really worried about, you know, that number, well, yeah, percentage-wise we are. We've lost the same percentages nationally, about 12 people in Boulder City. So, but anyway, I don't want to get into a red herring with that. We need to follow the laws. But I would prefer if these documents were available before we have to vote. I'm not comfortable voting, not seeing these documents. That's just
Well, okay, so we can, I have no problem with tweaking the language, but we need something to state why that we have this report at all. So if you want to, because one thing we could do is we say, we tentatively, and that's basically what we're doing, now we can put that word in there. But we want to say that if we vote tentatively, that's all they're doing, and then have more time to discuss this, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I'm more comfortable with that because, yeah, I mean, but the document was we're supposed to review the CIP. That's what it says in there. It doesn't say we have to vote on it in the ordinance or the resolution. So.
Well, you asked for a report. You guys helped with the report. I greatly appreciate it. But the report has to have meaning too. We can't just repeat, well, here's the items. That doesn't necessarily help the council. We need to say we either understand that this has value to it or not. We have to put something in there that states that we have some input. That's been our whole problem all along. I've agreed with you all along is that we need more information. But now we're at a point we need something to go forward to help the city council.
So my idea of the report was to write things in layman's terms, so, like a musician like James Adams, who doesn't know anything about electricity, could somehow understand the concepts of what's being done. That's what I was trying to do. I don't think we're that far apart on this issue. I just didn't want to rubber stamp this. And then Dennis goes to them. Dennis has already told them we agree to all this before we even had this discussion, if you watch the video. He did. It's on the video yesterday. You said that you have no doubts the committee will endorse all of this. I thought that was kind of jumping the gun, because I haven't endorsed this at all. So maybe 6/7 of the committee has. And if you want to vote and overrule me, I have no problem with that. We're democracy. I think it's silly if everything agrees on everything. We don't need 7 members. We only need 1 person. So I don't want to blackmail you to modify it to what I want. If you want to have that in there, I have no problem. I just disagree, that's all.
Maybe I could just put my 2 cents in here, but I felt pretty good about the report that they presented to us a while back with the pictures and the details. It took me a little bit of time to come up to speed on all of this stuff. I've been kind of out of the picture here in the city for almost 11, 12 years, but it made sense to me, most of what they talked about. And they're the experts. They're the people that come in. This is what they do every day, is to go through this stuff and look at it and to make determinations. And I felt pretty good about what I was seeing. There were some things with electrical that I wondered if maybe they needed to be done as soon as they're doing them. I think some of those things could be delayed a little bit, but as long as the money's there and they're willing to do it, I think maybe that's okay to go after that. But we could put some wiggle room in this that would basically say to the extent that we feel comfortable with this, or I don't know, that doesn't sound very good either, but come up with something that would maybe do better. But again, it's a vote, and it's not always that things are unanimous. So it could be, what have we got, 6-1 or 5-1, something like that. So I don't know how many people.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't want to stall this for hours. Yeah. We got business to take care of.
I think that may be the answer to this.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with being a minority of 1. It doesn't bother me at all.
Well, I don't mind the tentative aspect, because basically I think we probably should have put it in the beginning, because they're tentatively voting. We still want to discuss more. We've asked for that. We've asked for discuss among ourselves to have more workshops so we can try to get more information, discuss more things among ourselves. So if we see, what would you say? All of the projects connected to needed safety. Yes.
Let's just remove the last sentence on this report we did. The UAC recommends that all FY22 capital projects be approved. Just remove the last sentence. Everything else falls into place then.
Okay, let's just read it. They're saying, okay, all of the capital projects requested for fiscal year 28 are needed for the safety and reliability of the Boulder City utility infrastructure. Many of the projects have to be completed before the future capital plan can be started. Okay, now the only problem with that is then what are we saying and what is in this report? Do we have anything else in the report further up, because I haven't memorized it, that states that we have any input at all or we have any comment?
The problem is that this report was basically spelled out in layperson's terms as to what the details of the single identifier of the project is. This goes into more layperson's term without getting into the weeds, as we say, or down into the dirt, digging in and finding out exactly how big is the valve we're going to change, what size is it, what's the condition of it. This is just an overview. That's all we were supposed to do. Now, if we're required to report on this and vote on it, that's for another meeting.
I'm with Greg on that. I'm with your modification. I'm comfortable with that. I don't think we should. I'm worried that they're going to see this as a rubber stamp and then think, well, we don't have to think about this because all of these experts have seen everything, and I'm very comfortable with what Greg said.
What does the rest of the group say? Does everybody agree with taking that last sentence out?
I do.
Fine.
Okay, you want to take it off, Josh?
I think the last item under sewer FY '22 is, this should be 2021-0105, if I'm reading this right.
No, that's from last year's project. That was a carry forward.
But, okay, so does it correspond with this document?
There's several of those floating around. Pick which one you want.
Okay, just wanted to notice everything else was in order and that one seemed out.
Yeah.
It'd be 2105, right?
Yeah, it should, yeah.
21105.
It matches, Greg, it matches what's on the, so if we're trying to match, we're using what's on the latest SIP, and that's what, but, so did we clarify that better? So where you said it, Greg, did we clarify that's one of the things we definitely, I think we all agree in the committee that these numbers need to be, so where did we put that again? I'm sorry, I should look, so where did we put that? Didn't we say something on that line? Or did we not? Did we put that in writing that these numbers need to be clarified? Did we put it in this report? No. Okay. Well, that's one thing that we can do as a committee, and it wouldn't be bad to have it in writing, so do we want to just state that at the top or the bottom, just say that we suggest that it's imperative that the numbers are say that's the best way to say that.
The committee respectfully requests the consistent numbering of all projects, from the conception of the project to the finish of the project. So if it's a carry forward, it should have the same number that it was created under, the year and the number of the project, all the way through to its final termination.
Correct.
So either, probably the best thing to do is put it above the electric at the very top, or right there above what we state on the bottom. Go ahead, no, don't get rid of it yet. Josh, sorry, you don't have to get rid of it.
He's fast. We need to put it somewhere because we did discuss it at the last workshop.
Okay, are you okay just to add it in that last paragraph then?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't have a problem with it.
Okay. Greg, can you repeat it slowly?
Project numbers should remain consistent throughout the life of the project. That way, City Council or Utility Advisory Committee or the City of Boulder City can track it from cradle to grave, is what we used to call it. And we don't keep adding stuff to the title of it or combining stuff to reduce project numbers. We keep going on the spreadsheets the way it is, all the way through to the end. And that way, city...
Okay, hold on, Greg, let him catch up.
Well, no, I'm just explaining,
you're
like, we can pause and let him type, but here's the problem I'm seeing. Several city, I'm trying to think of the word, not employees, but no, city people, city personnel or city people that are living in here are tracking these numbers. And by the confusion of changing the numbers, we lose dollar amounts in the columns. If they change a project title to let's say retire substation 1 and substation 2, that was two separate line items. By combining the two of them, you don't know where the money is going to, which is costing more. So once you start a project with a numbering system, it carries all the way through, even if it carries forward 10 years.
No, I totally agree, and I think
Okay,
we
and
all
that's what we
understand what's
found
going
as a
on.
committee. We've got to get this straightened out because we're having trouble tracking it.
No, I agree. So, okay, so let's get it, so the one thing, I think to be more technical again, Josh, if we say the UAC, I think I've been trying to use the UAC more so that this doesn't get confused with another committee. No, up on top, sorry. Respectfully request that project numbers remain consistent throughout the life of the project so that the projects are easily tracked, okay? Okay. So this is a pretty basic aspect, so do we want to do something or just say in an email, I guess ask the city that this is our first report relating to CAP, or what, do we put something in here, or does this stand, I'm not sure this thing stands alone, that's my problem. Huh?
It's our second one since we've been formed.
True, I agree with that, but, okay.
I mean, we can say we've been asked to review the CIP in the resolution, and we're reviewing the CIP, here it is. You know, it's kind of, just refer to the resolution, that's what they want us to do, and we're doing it. Maybe in the email, to explain why this report is appearing out of thin air.
Like I said, do you want that in the email, or do we want that on this? Okay, so, Josh, are you comfortable, or Dennis, putting in something like that, or do you want to type in something on a separate piece of paper to sort of show, or what would you like to do? If we leave this as it is?
I guess you could do it a couple of different ways. I suppose you got a couple different options. You guys can, I guess, approve the document as written and recommend that staff forward it from the committee to mayor and council and request that they review, and if they have any questions, please, let us know. Some kind of language like that in the email that goes out. But it seems to me all you got to do is, it's pretty simple. I think just agree to approve the document as it's written.
Well, I think we do want some language in, so it'd be easier. What I'm hearing from the different George and Greg and stuff, one way to do it is to say, okay, based on the conversations at the meetings or the discussions at the meetings and the review of, or based on the review, and maybe to say based on the review and discussions during the meetings of the council, that this is our feedback or something like that.
Right.
This is the UAC's feedback. So has anybody got better wordage than that?
So yeah, you can simply recommend that staff forward the report to council for their review and comment.
Perfect.
Okay, so if there are, go ahead, Eileen.
There is another project that has the wrong number on it. It's the pole replacement program. It's listed as 20-101, and I believe it's supposed to be 21-101. This is what it shows on this document, and
I believe that's correct. Yep, correct. Yeah, because that came out of the study.
Yeah.
So that would have been 21. Good catch.
What we could do is, in the documents the city has prepared on EC 21-101, that should say emergency pole replacement program, because those were identified by the mile high drones. That's not part of our project we've been working on the 4 kV system throughout downtown. How many poles were there that they identified? So if we put EMG pole replacement program, that's when it was created in 21-101 of 151 poles or 150 poles, APPROX, then that would satisfy the information and it wouldn't be confused with the original 4 kV upgrade throughout downtown area.
So the problem, Greg, is that that doesn't match the two documents. So if that's on an old document, because right now the ongoing has it as E2 105 pole replacement, just pole replacement, and then the CAP has it as electric 21 101. So this is the exact what we're talking about. We have two different numbers. And if there's an additional information that you're saying, even a different category, then we've got 3 different things going on. So it depends on which form we do it at, because I think on the top we just stated that this is from the documents. We don't say what it's. These are based on the spreadsheets handed out. So
Right, but what I'm looking at is utility CIP 22-26, okay? And we got to start somewhere to get the numbers straightened out and get the description straightened out, because as we go down through the system, 4 years later from now, we're not going to remember what the project number 21101 was about.
well, no. What I'm saying is it just doesn't say emergency. It just says pole replacement. So to keep the language the same, just as we're saying, then we definitely change it to 21. I totally agree with that. But instead of saying emergency pole, we just say pole, because then they could think that there's another line item someplace that we missed. The line item itself only says pole replacement program.
You know, I wonder, maybe this is where we want to go, but when all of these, maybe we got on an E 2021 something, or we should put an E in front of it, or if it's a water, we put a W in front of it. A wastewater, we put an S in front of it, and a landfill, we put an L in front of those numbers, because there's a lot of duplicate numbers if we don't do something like that to distinguish whether they're applying to electric or water or wastewater or sewer or landfill.
No, that's yeah. So basically, to match what here, we'd put LEC and water in that. But if we just put an E, I'm fine either way. It's just a matter of, one document has it one way, one document has it another way. And so I totally agree. So
Just a real quick comment. So this actually came up in the CIP workshop with regards to a conversation that Carol was having with the city council. So I know, if I remember what she said, was that that's something she's working on with finance to make sure there's consistency between how the projects are labeled and what happens when they go into the financial system, which right now has been inconsistent. So I know they're working on something, so maybe we let that play out a little bit.
well, I think we want to definitely put one or the other. It's either E or electric and water or water. So he's got a good point, just to make sure it's not a.
Yeah, and that's easy enough to do.
So, which do you want to put right now? Because we're going to change it. We got to move on real quickly here. Hopefully, the next one won't take this long.
Let's just put the letter. If you start spelling out, that's going to be little long numbers. Just put an E or an S or a W or an L.
Okay, that's no problem. So, Josh, can we do that really quick? Can we go? Great, thanks. There's a meeting at 6, and they have to have time to clean up. So we have a little bit after 5, but not a whole lot. Okay, so anybody else find anything else? Anything else? Okay, so I guess the easy way to do this is, I will establish, I will do a motion unless somebody else has a motion, if they prefer. Okay, so you're just gonna take the motion off the, recording, Josh? Okay, so I'll try to do it slow and make it easy. So I make a motion that we approve this CIP report to the city council for fiscal year, so the CIP report for fiscal year 22, and request that the city email the report stating that this is based on our review and discussions during the meetings of the CIP fiscal year 22 projects.
I'll second.
Okay, so is everybody okay with that motion before we vote? Does anybody have any concerns? Okay, so all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nay. I guess just to put it for the record, then it was unanimously passed. Okay, so then if we can go to the next report.
Which is what, 5? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm always doing something. I'm in Greece. That's my life. My hands are torn up all the time.
Gasoline grease.
Yep, no fingerprints. It's hard to pick up stuff.
Again, Josh, I guess, okay, great, you're ahead. Thank you very much. And then the really picky one, Josh, at the let's see, so I think it's at the very bottom, or at least it was at the very bottom, first page, right there. Okay, so something must have changed. Keep going back up, right there. Nope, it's on the second page now, the title. So on the second page, that's the first page, second page, right at the very top. That needs to be a period at the end of the report. And I guess now we need a space to separate it. And also, I guess, to make it just clean, go back up to this first page again. And I think we have an extra space between 1 and 2 lines, so we just just delete that. Oh, no, I guess it's just bigger. Okay, so we do want that. Eileen, do we want the line to help separate it or not?
I don't know what it is, I can't see the numbers.
Just a single space.
I can't see the numbers.
Okay, what happened there? That,
Right there.
yeah, that's great, thank you. Okay, I think that's what I had found. Now, okay, so then, does anybody have any concerns on any of the language or the recommendations that we are making there?
I can't read it.
Is this in the packet, Larry?
Yes, it should be on the packet on item number, I think it was on item number 6.
What page on the packet?
I don't have,
Up at the top left, 77, 78, 80, something like that.
yeah, I don't have numbers on mine, sorry. Did you find it? Should be towards the bottom. Should be almost. After the study of Raftelis? Yes, after the study of Raftelis. So it's really, really close to the bottom. So I'd just go to the bottom and come back up, probably the easy way to do it. Eileen, Eileen, did you see anything?
No.
Thank you. Not trying to put you on the spot, but your grammar, I think, is better than most of ours. And since you weren't here last time, I just want to make sure you have the opportunity to make sure you've gone through it properly.
It's 150. Yeah, 156.
56? Oh, okay.
Point of issue, our report that we just approved is back again down at the bottom behind this report. So we need to take and get that out of here.
What do you mean?
Another copy of it, unmodified. It's
I
Python.
understand that, but what do we do now? It's already there. It's just what can we do?
It countermands what we just did on voting on the first report. So in other words, why is it in there?
There was a confusion to where we was going to be put is all, I think is what happened, where we were going to discuss it. There was one discussion, I think a thought was going to be that it was going to be part of the capital instead of the report. If you want to make a comment on record that there's two versions in there but both versions are now superseded by the marked up one, so we just have it on the camera. If you want to do that, that's fine. I don't think there's anything we need to do physically, unless there's something I'm missing. Greg, is there something I'm missing?
No, it's just that it's the draft before we made the final revisions.
Correct.
So that needs to be highlighted as draft across the report. It can stay in the packet, but it should be highlighted as draft.
Well, the packet is what it is. It's already out there. So
I know,
I guess,
but I'm saying, let's just see what happens. But yeah, I'll make a comment at the end of the meeting.
Okay, well, that's good. But that's a good point for future, is we want to make sure these are drafts. That's one thing we did not do. So thank you. We will make sure all future, anything that we've done in the future like that will be stated to be draft.
Larry? On the summary of motions, which is, I'm getting confused. I think somewhere on there, we need to indicate that it was based on the September 2020 report, because we've got a new report now, and we make reference to the proposed financial plans on the August.
We did that in the first paragraph. The motions are based on the 9 recommendations made by Rep. Tillis on September 9th. Let me see. With the information without the draft, so we're stating what we have at this point in that first paragraph.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see that part. Thank you.
Okay, because that's the thing, but make sure we're all, because that's what I was trying to make sure we got across is we have limited information. We state that this is without even the draft or the final report. These are our initials. That's why we put initial UAC comments, recommendations. But again, we can, if something needs to be tweaked, there's no problem. Well, okay, I was trying to give people time to make sure they reviewed it. Is there any additional comments? So we're okay with the recommendations. So we have 3 recommendations. Basically, we're asking to review that's one thing I needed to change on, is number 1 on Josh, if you go to number 1. I think it'd be cleaner if we say the utility rate resolutions. That way it's clear what we're asking to look at.
Yeah, good idea.
And to my knowledge, there's no other rate resolutions. Well, there's a whole bunch of old ones, but current, and we're asking for the current. Okay, good. Okay, so we're asking to review that. We're saying we do not increase the central service fee and review in more details. Now, one thing really quickly, we have just a minute or two to discuss it, is in the current audited financials for 2020. The central service was not even transferred out this year. So my understanding is they aren't even using this. They attributed it actual cost someplace else. So do we need to state that, or just since these are initial recommendations, we'll go over that later? Go over later? Okay. George, you have a comment?
No, you kind of surprised. I'm amazed at that. That they're not transferring the. Did you look? Did you know where it's going, or what?
Well, the 2020. So it was the actuals for 2020 that just got finished. They did not show a transfer out. So what they did with it, I can't say. But
it sits in a fund, in the utilities fund, then, or something. Or?
No, I'm assuming what happened is they collected it and they put it. My assumption is, but then again, when they don't have a good breakdown, we don't know. So the document itself shows that it was budgeted for. It was finally budgeted for. It was not used. So I'm assuming that it was in the actuals for salaries and stuff like that, and not transferred out. So and
it comes from the four funds, right? The electric fund goes to the admin fund, and then the central services fee goes from there to the general fund. Except it didn't.
No, actually, yes, it's supposed to be that way.
It's supposed to be.
Anyway, so I don't know if maybe we're out of time, so we can do it later.
Really quick, I thought we identified two. We identified administrative fund, and we also identified this other fund in a different line item.
Yes. That's the thing is so that's what this paragraph right below says, is that they weren't using it anymore, and that's what shows in the audit. So I just didn't know. I think we've got it stated, and we can bring it up more in the future. So that's what their own document stated, and so now two of their documents are confusing the issue why we're even going forward with this item at all. So the only other thing that we could do is that whether we recommend that it's even taken, well, the central fee, I don't think we can, it's too confusing to take out of the report. The next fee, for the franchise fee, so then we're going with the franchise fee. Where did mine go? Yeah, the franchise fee, okay, so do not accept or enact any franchise fee related to the Boulder City utilities now or in the future. So that's the three things. So we want to review the rate resolutions. We do not want to increase, we recommend that they do not increase the central fee, and we do not agree to accept or enact the franchise fee. Okay, so if everybody's happy with it and doesn't have any additional exception, does anybody have a motion for this?
Yeah, I'll make a recommendation that we go forward with the recommendations as stated on November 18th.
I'll go ahead and second it.
Okay, the only thing is, can we, because I believe we can amend the motion if because we also need to clarify somewhere along the line that we want this emailed also. We're gonna have this emailed to the city council. So do we want that part of the motion, or do we just want to state it after the fact? We'll state it after the fact. Okay, so we'll go with the motion then. So so anybody have any issues with the motion? Okay, so I put it to a vote ask for a vote on the motion to accept the recommendation as of November 18th. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so that's passed, the motion's passed, and so I guess I will state it then, if the city would please email this to the council also, and state that this is our initial recommendation with the information we currently have, and it is before any input or anything relating to the current draft report, and ask for their feedback also.
Yeah, and I'll also let them know that there'll be further considerations at the workshop on the 18th
16th.
or 16th.
Yeah.
Can they CC us on the email so we can see it?
Thank you. That'd be great. Okay, so anything additional on the reports? Or that agenda item that has, because that has other reports or other things we can do with. Okay, so seeing none, then go to the discussion of future agenda items. Does anybody have any input on that?
I'm thinking about that. We're supposed to review the 5-year CIP. I was looking at the timescales, and they adopt it. Is it on January 26th is the 5-year CIP that the council adopts?
Yeah, I have to get back to you on that. I'm not positive if it's just FY22 or the 5-year.
Okay. Again,
Yeah.
I'm just going by the resolution.
Yeah.
We're supposed to review the 5-year, our committee.
Right.
But I don't know when they review it. Maybe, yeah, you can let us know, so
Yeah,
that's the time
let me
scale.
just verify exactly what it is they vote on.
Point of order, we can put that on our next workshop as a line item, review 5-year plan on our next workshop. Because that's what we're talking about, what we're gonna have for possible action and future agenda items. The 5-year plan could be put on our workshop agenda item.
Okay. So for the December 16th workshop, we have at least 3, if not 4 now, to make sure I'm understanding. So we have we want ongoing capital projects. And so this is a workshop, so there's no for action, I guess. We don't worry about that. The second thing we have is then we can just put the review of the 5-year CIP, because that includes the 22 also. So we don't have to do 2 separate. So review and discussion. So both need to say, I guess, just review and discussion is the best way to say it. And then review and discussion on the draft report for Raftilis's draft rate study.
And the workshop will start at 1 PM.
Correct, and right now it's set for until 4. We don't have anybody until 6 or 7 that night. We have a little bit of time on that one, I believe, because I think I can't remember if there's somebody behind us or not, but we have a little bit of time if it has to go a little longer.
If it is, it'd probably be at 6, so we're gonna have to 5.
Okay.
You know, I should say that I may or may not be here for that meeting. I've got a daughter that's supposed to be having a baby between now and the next 3 weeks, and we're scheduled to go be with her kids and tend her kids while she's having this baby for a week or so. So I won't know until it happens, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you can, if you have any suggestions that you can forward to anybody to put, I guess, send to the city on that, on the report or any of this stuff, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Okay,
If you can't make
be
it.
happy to, sure.
And I have a meeting I'm trying to reschedule for that afternoon that I cannot miss, but I'm thinking I'll be able to get it rescheduled.
Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We should have 5 of us. Is the rest 5 can make it, so we have a quorum? Okay, so then if for something that does happen, then we would still have a quorum. Okay, thank you. So does anybody else have anything on the 16th? I think that will cover a lot. Okay, so then January, if I'm looking at the calendar right, January 5th is a regular meeting. And so I guess for right now, it's best just to, are we happy with a similar agenda to this? We would have the approval, so it'd be similar to tonight's, where we have approval of the minutes. I don't believe there's no presentation that's needed for the January. Dennis, is there anything that we're missing?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. And then we have the ongoing capital. We have the fiscal year 22. So maybe we should just change that to the 5-year capital plan. That way we can, because basically that's what it is.
Yeah, and now that I'm thinking about it, just given the, I'm gonna borrow. Given the schedule, for the budget for next year, the first council review is February 10th, so we would need to have some discussion on the operating budget, at the first meeting in January.
Then, see now, the budget is a big portion of the draft plan, the rate study.
Right.
So do we just incorporate that into the rates, the 16th, so we can start getting a heads up on that?
You could, yeah.
Because it depends on how, being in a regular meeting and stuff, there's a few pitfalls in that discussion.
I mean, I can't imagine they'll exactly match the rate study because the finance goes and does their calculations for cost of living, and, you know, they're gonna be close, but they're not gonna be exactly the same.
So
what we eventually present will be, some of those numbers may be slightly different.
So that would be presented to us to say, here's what we're going forward with. So are you asking for our opinion on that at that night, or are you just presenting it to us what the current?
I think it would be the first time you'd see it from finance, so I think it would just be more of a presentation and discussion.
Okay, yeah, because that's really not fair to
Right.
ask for an opinion.
Right, and we won't even have, staff doesn't even have our drafts until after the January 20th. I'm sorry, I might have looked at the wrong date. So February 10th is the first, so yeah, we don't even see it ourselves after the city manager's reviewed. So really, it would be the first meeting in February. Yeah.
First meeting in February that we're seeing the capital, or the first meeting in January?
Operating budget.
Operating budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
because we don't even get it until the 21st of January, so.
Well, that's when I think we can, if something comes up, you can add it to the agenda in January.
Yeah,
If not, then it'd be in February.
certainly, it would be on the meeting in February,
Okay.
for sure.
Greg, did you have a comment? You were,
I was gonna say opinions and stuff like that are real easy to get, just go out on the street and ask, you know.
okay.
I think we've got a pretty good plate on our workshop for the next one.
I didn't realize
And-
that.
And then the other thing we gotta do, which you were talking about, is the resolutions.
Correct.
So I don't know when we're gonna squeeze that in for discussion.
Well, the resolutions, I think, would be a workshop. And so what I was looking at was to suggest February, either to make our meeting a workshop or have two meetings. I would think we could try to maybe just make it a workshop, February's meeting.
Yeah, I would like that, because there's some things on those resolutions we gotta get cleaned up before they get recommended or put out for recommendation.
So is everybody okay with having February as a workshop? So we'll just do one meeting unless we need something additional.
So we wouldn't have a regularly scheduled February meeting?
Well, the regular meeting, make sure I'm
Or it'd
saying,
be a
it would be on the regular scheduled time, but it would
But it'd
be
be a
a workshop instead of a regular meeting.
Gotcha, that works.
Okay.
So that's rate recommendations is what's in these resolutions. Is that what we're talking about?
It's all the minutia. It's all the rate schedules, yeah, it's all the rate schedules for all the different meters, all the different customer classes,
Right, right, right.
everything. And some things have been kind of glossed over, like our net metering, which is
Sure,
a pet
sure.
project of yours. Okay, and the thing is I'm fearful of it because we have an individual or several individuals that I've heard them speak personally now, that they have said that the solar rebates in Boulder City are the retail cost, not the wholesale cost.
Oh, I hear you, yeah.
Just like I was suspecting.
No
So
worries.
we have to take a note that in our resolution for net metering, that our rate is currently the wholesale rate of X with an escalator clause every year as what we're charged.
Sure.
Okay, so that is a significant difference for people putting solar on roofs in Boulder City.
Okay, right, thank you. So going forward, I guess January, we can talk about more, but I want to put a few things out there to get an idea. So I'm not I don't think we need additional meetings in January or February. So we would just have the one each month. So the January would be a regular meeting, February turns into a workshop. And then we need to, but in January, we probably make sure we review the milestones, the timeline that was handed out today, milestones and timelines to make sure that we can help with anything. And we've got the information that we need to do that. So January, we'll probably review our future agenda items again and see how we might need to go forward. What I'm seeing is, and related to our resolution and other issues, is we'll need to get the future resource planning somewhere in the near, somewhere probably maybe in near March or something. So we can discuss it.
Are you talking about on the integrated resource planning for electrical or water resource planning?
I think we just all the above. Yeah. So I think if we start it and then we decide, because the integrated is something to be reviewed annually and then voted on every 5 years, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, and it's typically at the request of WAPA, which we haven't received one of those, but that was the last time it was done, I think was 2018.
Well, to my knowledge, it's a contractual obligation that's a minimum every 5 years.
Yeah.
So it's not, if they don't say it, then doesn't mean we don't have to.
But I think it would be good for us to update it regardless.
Yes,
I think it covers 18 to 22, the one that Rory Dwyer did.
Right.
So theoretically, we would be doing 22 then. It might be this year.
So
if
we
we're
would
saying
need
for
to start
22.
working on it next year anyway. And then it would also incorporate the new renewables that we anticipate.
Well, and that's the thing that we need to, well, the other one is, another major one is water conservation. We've been talking about that. And to see if there's any low-hanging fruit, but for a better way it's what we can start sooner than later, or discuss what we can help with.
Right.
Make just a discussion. The other aspect is solar. So I think we need to start that sooner or later too. So with the capital projects, has it been considered what if we end up with a large amount of individual houses with solar? Is the infrastructure of Boulder City at a point it can handle it?
Yeah, so I think what I would probably recommend, because I've been thinking about this as well, I'm not overly concerned about, I'm concerned about the wear and tear, obviously, with more solar coming onto the grid, because that's no different from it leaving the grid, going to the customer, right? It's still wear and tear on our infrastructure, but regardless of which direction the electrons are flowing. We're different, obviously, than the Valley, and not only in the way that we manage the net metering program with the wholesale versus what I would consider a subsidized retail rate that they get over there. It's more than just wholesale that they are credited. So they are very different. I think what we probably need to do is a small study that looks at those projections of rooftop solar and how that integrates with our resource plans and how we're managing power with SSEA, just to see, because my feeling is there could be some adverse impacts eventually, but I don't know that for certain.
Well, I think that's what I'm looking at, is that I would guess there would be several steps involved, and that would be a great first step. Yeah. But I would believe that'd be something the committee would want to look at, because it's another thing, if nothing else, is to have the Boulder City citizens understand what it means. You know, right. It's got pros and cons, or it could potentially have two non-solar users if you end up with a certain amount.
Right, because if you think about it, we compete with the rooftop developers, right? If we're going out and securing solar at more of a utility size versus a rooftop, it's very different, so.
Right, well, the big thing too is the infrastructure. They're not paying, it's a benefit to them, so I don't want to, I'm not trying to put it in a negative factor, but
Right.
it's a negative to the city because now if they have a large amount of their, if the rooftops produce a lot of solar and they're not buying the power, now we have a problem with the
Exactly.
cost of the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Who's paying for it? And so, it's not saying it's wrong, it's just saying we have to look at
Right.
it. That's
And
all.
it also could be very difficult in the future to say, hey, we don't want any more rooftop, right? That doesn't sound good either.
Right,
So,
but if we start looking at it, then at least we understand what we're looking at.
Right.
Real quick, pardon me, a rate study for that would be the hospital. Okay, they just energized all their the carport panels, they're all in service, now let's see what happens. That needs to be identified as a rate study. Because the biggest thing you got is the fact that somebody has to keep the infrastructure going. Okay, we're not making any money on rooftop solar, we're not really gonna make any money on utility grade solar, other than the fact that it will relieve the burden on our transformers 230 to 69 kV during daylight hours.
Right.
Yeah, so, I think we have two more comments, but we're getting into a discussion if we're not careful here, but you had a comment, Ned.
Well, actually, I have solar on my house, so I'm probably a little bit biased, but it's not cheap. And I don't think we're going to see that many residential customers. I could see some of the larger facilities maybe.
We're
coming
adding
online.
about two a week. About two a
Is
week.
that right? Two a
Yep.
week?
And we're up to a megawatt total between commercial and residential. So
That's surprising.
I think we have enough information to give some projections to SSEA folks to start looking at what those impacts could possibly be.
Megawatt of capacity or megawatt of,
Generation.
that's 10%, we're at 10 megawatts, Boulder City. That's 10% of our
Well, 50
usage.
megawatts in the summertime.
No, we're 50 in the summer.
No, but that's capacity. That's the maximum we ever use. That's what I was asking you. Is it capacity or is it average use? So on average, 1 megawatt. Anyway,
Well,
It's capacity of their solar.
yeah, a typical residential is going to have anywhere between 5 and 10
Right.
thousand watts of
And
solar.
that's typically what we're
in the
seeing.
peak hours of the day. But sometimes that benefits you if you don't have to go out and buy that peak energy on the grid. So we just need to look at it.
It'll
and
be
see where it's
interesting to see what it looks like, especially out 10 or 15 years.
it's a difficult problem, but I'll make the obligatory climate change comment because then we turn around and say, well, magically the Colorado River once again this year is not going to deliver the water, and that's because of the regional impacts of putting carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. I don't want to divert the whole discussion, but if at city levels we discourage people from doing the right thing, I think that's a mistake. I realize it's a complex issue with infrastructure, but we have to find a way to do the right thing while,
All I'm saying is we brought the facts out.
Yep.
And also this ties in with the capital plan. If we have to have more infrastructure, we have to have more infrastructure to account for if things happen. So, just we need to discuss the facts.
Yep.
So
And
we
my
might
po-
even, so if I'm understanding, is that something we could put in the February workshop? Is that too soon?
That's probably too soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
But maybe we could start the discussion, have a small item in February, that way
Yep.
we can discuss what we started doing today and then encourage.
And I can certainly start having that conversation with S&WA folks.
Okay.
SSEA folks and have information by
Okay.
then.
Then the last thing I would like to do is I think the other one we need to do would be February starting again too, would be, so I'm assuming the final report's gonna be out in January sometime for the rate study. And so then we're gonna need workshops to discuss recommendations and what the final report. So we'll be doing what we think of the report and our comments on the report on the 16th, the next meeting here in December. And then after that, I believe, so let me know if something's different, is that we need to discuss what the report said and what we feel, how to go forward with it.
Rafaelis are still, I thought we were done with them. They're still working on the report then?
They're
or-
still, yeah, they've got they got to finish up the dashboard on the model, whatever tweaks and comments we provide back to them.
Okay.
I'm going to have them available at the 16th meeting, not the 18th that I keep saying for some reason.
Are we paying them still, or because we paid them like 200,000?
Yeah, we're still paying them, but we're at the very end of their contract.
But are we paying them extra for this extra?
No.
No.
But we'll have to talk about that, but right now, no.
And just so my suggestion is, so we're still talking future agenda items, is that we open the workshop as a committee, we discuss it, and then we bring Ralph Tillis in. I think it has some advantage to discuss things on our own,
Yeah,
if that's okay with everybody.
right. And if anybody has any specific comments, especially if they're major, and they can get them to me sooner, I can get those off to Ralph Tallis to start thinking about so they can respond on the 16th.
And so I guess, so what I can try to do is put together, I've already have several comments laid out in the comment field, and I can send that to Josh. And then maybe we can put that up as I guess that would have to go in as a public document, and then we would bring it up on the screen. So if that's what people, we could start there, and if people agree with my comments, we keep it. If we don't, we get rid of it. Or I'd present my own comments either way later on. But that might be one way to work with the committee. Does that sound reasonable as a starting point?
Would that be then a draft of a report that we're going to give to council, or what is?
No, this would just be what we recommend our comments or recommended changes to the draft report they would correct.
Oh, for Ralph Tallis,
for
okay.
Ralph Tallis.
Right,
Okay.
because we're going to need them to final the report. Yeah.
So my understanding is, just for the final thing, and we're pushing it really tight here, is that we agreed to try to have our comments in within 4 weeks after they gave it to us. So the 16th would be pretty much it. So there's no voting, it would just be a matter of agreeing. So I'm assuming we would be coming, it would be very helpful for everybody to come in with their comments, because I would assume that would be it for that day. And that's where 3 hours or more could take it, because we'd say, okay, here's the whole report. Well, it's 100 and some odd pages. I'm trying to remember how many pages.
Something like that.
Huh? And so it depends if we go down the whole thing or not, but it could take a long time to try to get all our comments done. So just be prepared for that. Thanks for everybody. Okay, so anything else on that quickly? Okay, we're going to close that, and then I will open the last comment period, and we can. Huh? Okay, so the thing is we don't have the time, so I will say that, did anybody have any quick comment on the rate study? I think that's the last discussion was on the time. It sort of was,
I think there are major problems with it, I'll say that. I mean, there's just huge, for example, the franchise fee is put in there without any justification. They say it's an internal report. Well, I won't go on for hours, but I think there are huge problems with this rate study.
Okay, can you make sure you bring that to the next meeting then, to the workshop? Okay, so we need to discuss that. Thank you. Okay, so so then we've gone through the agenda items. We will close out the agenda items and go to the public comment period. So the number is 702-589-9629 for anybody that would like to comment, and we're going to have to keep it as brief as possible. And this is on any item that. Thank you. We'll have 1 minute to allow a call to come in.
Yes, again, for the record, Fred Volz, committee members. A few quick comments to close. Regarding solar and net metering, we need to ensure that those with rooftop solar pay a standby fee for when they will be using power from the grid at night and on cloudy days, because battery storage costs and capacity means virtually no one will be able to detach from the grid altogether. Providing a retail reimbursement rate to people who choose to install panels and don't have battery storage is effectively a subsidy by other ratepayers. A wholesale reimbursement for panel-generated electricity is appropriate. However, the huge upfront cost of installation and maintenance later on does not support an economic cost-benefit analysis for widespread adoption, nor should the city provide an upfront subsidy. From an engineering standpoint, widespread solar adoption likely means the grid, which is designed to be unidirectional in the flow of electricity, will need reworking to handle bidirectional flows. For your information, the hospital's solar panels were installed by a local company at zero cost to the hospital, and I'll ask that these comments be added to the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so just last clarification is that our meeting is at 1 o'clock on December 16th. And then the January meeting is, I think it's even on the calendar on the website. They have a nice calendar. It's if you just scroll down. But the January meeting is January 5th, and that's at 3 o'clock, I believe, right? Is that? So, and then the same thing, I believe it's the same, it's then January, I don't think February, but we'll make sure we get that. But if you look at the calendar, you'll see. And we are continuing on the first Wednesday at 3 o'clock is the idea, correct? Moving forward for the whole year. Okay. Thanks for everybody's time. I call adjourn. So, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. Vote. Ayes. Ayes. It's 5:16. 1 minute over. Thank you, everyone. What was it? Yeah, actually, it's